Hello, everyone. I hope that you are all doing well and that you are all safe. So, the other day, and by the other day, I think I mean yesterday, I don't know, time has been moving kind of weird for me. I got a very interesting question, so I wanted to go ahead and make a video about it while it was still on my mind. So, here's the question. Please make a video on how making/reading webtoons bring changes to your life and what messages does it give and more. Very quick introduction before I jump into that. If you haven't watched one of my videos before, hello, my name is Rochella Serki, and I am the author of the Webtoon Canvas series, That Which Is My Sister, a story about two sort of conflicting sisters, and I don't know how much more we're going to get into that. I'm really excited because this Friday we finally get to the main plot of the story after weeks and weeks and like 6 months, but we're almost there. Also, I would like to formally apologize to my mom about complaining about the heat last video. It turns out the heat was totally normal. I just had a fever and I didn't realize it until after the fever stopped, and then it became very apparent that I was actually sick. I am fine now. I am a little bit sick, but I'm getting much better. Hopefully my mom will never see either video, but you never know. Alright, so let's start off with reading. I'm pretty sure I've gone over in other videos before what comics, more specifically manga, means to me in general. So in this video, I'm going to speak on webtoons and scrolling format comics specifically. So have a little background. So I first started reading webtoons before I knew what they were and before Webtoon even had an English site. I started off by reading fan translations of Noblesse, Tower of God, and Orange Marmalade. They were a little bit difficult for me to read because I was reading them in my computer and they were broken up into chunks instead of on the scrolling format. But I did get very into the story despite the difficulties like technically reading them. So I first got the Webtoon app about a year after it came out. I'm not sure what year that was, but I know it was a year after it came out because of the amount of anniversary tokens I got. For a long time, I stuck to mainly reading manga, but then I'd drop in occasionally and binge read stuff like Tower of God and a few other series. I've always loved a mix of like really intense battle seinen and like girly romances for some reason. I have no idea why. I really love both. And I enjoyed reading Super Secret, The Gamer, and I don't know how to pronounce it right, but like I think it's Gosu on the site. So again, for a long time I would occasionally drop into the app and I would binge, but I don't think I was reading any webtoon series actually weekly until this year. So this year I got super into reading webtoons, both in featured in Canvas and on a couple of other sites too. Basically anything that's like the long scrolling format. And I don't think there's anything in particular that made me really stick to being able to read the series actually weekly this year. I think that just compared to the other times that I've gone into binge read, there's been a lot more series available in English, which has sort of gotten me hooked. It's sort of hard to go in and just read one series weekly because you have to just show up once a week on whatever day. It's a lot easier when there are multiple series that you really connect to, and then like maybe every day you show up and you read like 2 or 3 series. So basically I went in to do my normal binge read, but I really stuck around this time. I'd say I do read a lot more Korean series in general than the English series. I think that it's because there's sort of a longer history behind them working with this scrolling format in Korea, as well as there's a lot more variety in it because it's been popular there longer than here. I do weekly read some English featured and Canvas series though, but I find when working on my own comic, I look a lot more to the Korean series for inspiration when it comes to the actual art style and the formatting, because one, I think the aesthetic just resonates with me a little bit more than the more Western styled stuff, so the stuff that leans a little bit more on cartoons. And I think they also have a better grasp on just working with the format in general and when to do stuff like use patterned backgrounds instead of super detailed rendering stuff out. And I like to look at Korean series that are like set back way in the past and it's an isekai, and oh no, I woke up and I'm the duke's daughter, and oh no, I have to marry this hot evil prince, and everybody's super fashionable, and I look at everybody's clothes and I'm like, oh, I see you using that brush I saw in the Clip Studio paint store the other day and using that material set, and I see how you're using that material set. That's very innovative. So it gives me a lot of ideas on how I want to work on my series, and I just find that even though I enjoy reading the Western series, I'm a lot more inspired by the Korean series art. I think the idea of working with the scrolling comic format is still really young, and there's a lot more room to experiment and grow for everyone from any country. And I'm really excited to read more scrolling comics in the years to come. Alright, now let's talk about making comics. This section makes me a little more nervous because it's it's getting a little personal. So I think I've said this in a few videos before as well, but before I started working on my comic, I was in kind of a really, not kind of, but definitely a really bad place mentally. So I had gone to university for almost 4 years, feeling like everything I did there was more or less pointless, and it really, really wore me down. Like, really, really wore me down. And then when I graduated back in December, I had no luck getting any sort of desk job or job in animation. And I couldn't really do a part-time job because I had a very bad ankle injury and I couldn't stand for more than a few minutes. And I really couldn't see what type of job I would get in the area that wouldn't involve me walking there and then having to stand for hours. And I felt like, honestly, college didn't really help my art improve at all. It honestly just made me kind of like low-key, not low-key, it made me extraordinarily bitter. And all the time I spent studying art by myself, I was just so tired and wiped out all the time. I wasn't really retaining the information and I was getting nowhere. So before the virus happened, I had planned to go do a summer residency at CalArts. I had applied and I'd gotten in, and the whole time I was at college, I was sort of like, God, I wish I was at a good school like CalArts. So I was like, all right, I'm going to use all of my savings and I'm going to go over there and I'm going to do their residency program. And I was also at the time working on a short film because I really wanted to work in animation, and I was like, all these people at all these good schools do short films, so why don't I do a short film too? But I really couldn't connect to the characters at all, and I hated the fact that there wasn't any talking in it, and I just wasn't very excited by the film. I was more excited by the actual idea of animating than anything in the film. So looking back, it was really for the best that I didn't go to the thing at CalArts, because one, financially that would have been a horrible idea, even though I was really excited about it, and I was very desperate to get out of Ohio because it's fucking Ohio. I mean, what else is there to say? And honestly, I got more out of working on this comic than I probably ever could have gotten out of this program, and this was free. So basically, I had spent all the time from when I graduated in December to the end of March just sort of sitting around and feeling sorry for myself, feeling bad that I couldn't get a job, that I was kind of a failure, that I did an art major even though I could have done something else, like I was previously computer science, or I was thinking about neuroscience and I'd taken neuroscience and gotten good grades in neuroscience, and then I could be like pulling in big money, but instead I went through a useless degree and I'm unemployed. My ankle is not in great shape, and I'm just very sad all the time. It was honestly very awful. But honestly, just sitting around all the time, it wasn't really that different from being in college. So in college, basically my routine was I'd go to class, I'd wake up at the last minute and take like a 5 minute shower, or sometimes I wouldn't even shower, and I'd just sleep in the clothes that I was gonna wear to class. I'd basically just zone out throughout class because a lot of the times we were doing stuff like, I don't even want to get into it. It's just gonna make me angry. Uh, Occasionally I'd have to write something to justify what I was doing, so like an artist statement, and that wasn't that hard. You didn't even have to do that great work, you just had to have a good justification, and I'm pretty okay at writing, at least compared to the people I was being compared to at school. So I would do all kinds of stupid stuff and I just write my way out of it. And then I'd basically go back to my dorm, I'd do drawing studies or play video games until it was time to go to sleep, and then I'd repeat the cycle, and I was just very upset and unfulfilled with my life. But then, when things went completely out of my control with the virus, it was almost kind of freeing for me. I didn't have to sit around worrying about things anymore because I was no longer a failure for not liking college or not really having any friends or not being able to get a job. There was nothing I could do. Even if I picked a good degree, even if I had friends, I would be stuck in the exact same situation and there was nothing I could do about it. So I didn't have to feel guilty anymore. And with that, I was able to sort of gather up the last remnants of my energy and use that to work on this comic. So the comic, I was watching some of my older videos from before I stopped posting for a while because I was just so focused on the comic. And I basically used the comic as an opportunity to get to know my characters better so I could feel more attached to the short film. But as time went on, it became more and more fun and more interesting and more fulfilling and more exciting. And I was just, well, I still am really excited when I get up in the day to just be able to draw and write. Draw and write. That's all I want to do with my life. Just draw and write. And I realized that this was kind of the thing I wanted to do, and it's the thing I'm excited about. So I more or less gave up on the short film. And I kept working on this. And this thing grew, and it grew, and it grew. And I don't know if you can tell, but I got so excited I got off my script. Let me check. So honestly, the comic was the first thing in years that was like mentally challenging for me. Like, school was so easy as an art major. Like, I was barely doing any work. I was just showing up to get attendance grade, and that's about it. But then, like, this, like, every week there's a fun new challenge. Like, how am I going to do this shot in perspective? How am I going to write this? How am I going to figure out the coloring? Do I need to rethink my entire approach about laying out text? It's just, it's so exciting. And, like, I think literally for years, the reason that college felt so boring and unfulfilling is because there was basically no mental challenge. Everything that I was dealing with was basically my own emotional prison. I didn't really have to put energy in towards doing assignments, so everything felt like a waste of time, and it sort of got me into this really bad cycle where I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? This is pointless. Do I even have a point? Like, it just put me into a giant existential crisis. But then, like, this, like, it's just crazy. Like, it just feels so good to be able to put all of my energy into something and to work hard again. I really missed it. And then to actually have people be excited about my work and to be excited about what I have to say, and people who want to work with me to help me color, whether that's for a trade or just because they want to help me with the project because they see that I'm going somewhere with it, or like just being able to talk to other webtoon creators. And I had so much fun doing the Halloween collab, and that led me to joining like an Among Us server, and it's been so great. This has been the best thing that happened to me in like literally years. And then that's not even the end of it. My art started to just grow really, really, really quickly to the point where like I'm drawing and it feels like somebody else's hands are moving because whatever is happening is beyond whatever surface level brain thought is going on in my head, you know? And like I would say it was a little hard to tell at first, but very, very clearly looking at my art from the first couple episodes, and now I have improved at art more in the past 6 months since I started my comic than I did over the entirety of college. If you just look back and compare my drawing skill between the start of college and the end of college, and then the start of the comic, and now, it is absolutely insane. Like, it boggles my brain every time I go in to draw. I'm just like, who is drawing? This is not me. But then it feels so great, but like, it's also feels so much more me, even though it doesn't feel like me. Words. And then at college, I feel like a lot of my instructors or even peers during critiques, they like almost try to warp me into someone I am not when looking at the images. And I accept the fact that like in critique, like usually you're trying to help someone, but it was almost like the decisions that I was making were just in a completely different plane of existence than everyone around me. And it's just so nice to put out your stuff, and even if a few people don't like what I have to say or like my drawings or whatever, who the fuck cares? For the most part, I get really positive feedback, and I can tell that people are at least, even if they don't like it, they're thinking in the same realm as me. Like, in college, a lot of the time I felt like I was being looked at by some of the instructors almost as an object. And like, I'm not gonna call out anyone in particular about this, but it felt almost because most of the time I was the only black woman in my classes. It felt like every single project, well, not every single one, but like way more than it should have been. Like, they always in critique would try to link it back to me being black or a woman, or like when they'd have to give suggestions for the next projects, they're like, why don't you try to explore your blackness in the next project? And I'm like, what the fuck are you saying, 60-year-old white lady? Don't tell me what to do with my life. Like, why can't I just be a person who, I don't know, lives my life instead of like some just, I don't know, some almost example for you, like you're just stroking your ego because if one person in your class does something super woke, you feel by extension it makes you a better person. Like, let people pick what they want to do their projects on. People can do their art projects on basically anything by the rules of your class. You don't need to force people to make projects based off of their identity. And I know it's not just me, because I talk to other black people in the department. Even though there are so few of them, it's very rare that they're in the same class as me and they've had the same experience. And I've talked to LGBT people in the department and they have had similar experiences to me. I'm not talking about like everyone, but just like generally speaking, I've heard of other people in various minorities being in the same situations, and it sounds weird, but it feels really dehumanizing. Like, I just want to be seen for my work as like a human being, okay? Sorry, that's a whole other rant. We could make a whole video on that. All right, another thing that Webtoon helped with is I feel like I finally got over my bias of not doing anything in 3D, and I put in the time to learn Blender. I did a little bit of Blender in college just for fun to sort of like relax myself. I did a little bit of sculpting and I did the classic Blender Guru donut exercise. But I'm really glad that I finally seriously put in the time to understand 3D better, even if I know that my 3D work is never going to be at a professional industry standard, because honestly, I don't really care about it that much. I'm just using it as a tool to draw, and if I have weird polygon issues, I'm just gonna paint over it, so I don't care. But it's a lot of fun to learn something new, and it's a very quick way to make backgrounds, so I'm glad that I'm doing it. And I think that drawing in 3D space in proper proportions instead of making up your own space, I think that really helped to elevate my ability to draw people in perspective too. So yeah, I have honestly no clue what's going to happen to me next. And when you think about it, that's a little bit scary. I'm recording this on election day. I think the whole country has a similar anxiety. But, you know, for me, for the first time in a really, really long time, that's exciting too, to not know what's going to happen to me next. It used to be, for years, really, really scary to not know what's going to happen next. But I can just feel, I have no idea what's going to happen. But it'll probably be good. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there will be a horrible tragedy, or we will be struck by an asteroid. But I feel like there's a smaller than nothing chance of something good happening, and that's enough for me. So I'm going to continue to do my best on this comic and work as hard as I can until basically some giant force outside of my control forces me to stop or to go get a job. But I hope that you guys will stick around with me, and I hope that you guys will go read That Witch Is My Sister. You don't have to sub to me here, but please go sub to me there. Thank you guys very much. And if you have any other questions, don't be afraid to ask them. Bye.